Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Go out and try your luck, you may be down or done. Hooray for Hollywood, hooray for Hollywood.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Dinner. My name is Allison and this is my vidcast. I'm recording from my home in Los Angeles, California, and it is Saturday, September 27th, 2025. Thank you everyone for joining me. You can see Apple over here. She'll probably move at some point, but she is joining for the moment. How's everyone doing? It feels fallish here today. It is gray and overcast, and it's definitely a lot cooler than it has been. We've been having a little bit of heat wave, but this might be the first beginning of changing of the weather and things like that. But thought I would get on, give you a podcast. I have a lot of knitting to share and some upcoming travel, some works in progress, you know, random stuff about my life, all the stuff that usually is there. So let's get started with FOs. I'm gonna keep looking over here. This is where my notes are. My computer's over here. But the first up are the Harvest Moon socks. Look how pretty these are. This is a pair of socks for my boyfriend probably. And the yarn is Apple Yarn Studio Macintosh and Harvest Moon that I picked up at Stitches Cowl in 2019. And normal toe up. I'll take one down. This is my normal toe up pattern, 72 stitches for him. I did the palindrome heel. I'm kind of liking the heel. I haven't actually had a chance to wear it a lot, but it's pretty easy to do. And then, you know, the leg. And then this was all the same yarn. And I used 75 grams, so 330 yards. So yeah, pretty happy with them. They're on his sock blockers. These are Maple Leaf. I forget. I got them at Stitches. I forget who the manufacturer is. But another great pair of socks. Then I have a bunch of smaller projects. I've been wanting to use, like I always do, wanting to use scraps, wanting to use half skeins of stuff I have in my my stash, as well as some of those older skeins, you know, trying to move them on. And yeah. So next up is a Make 9 project. Make 9 are those projects I designate at the beginning of the year using older stash usually, and then some other ones of things I want to do. But this is one, it's beautiful. So the pattern is a Sidestep Brioche Cowl by Tina Whitmore. And here it is. Oh, look at how beautiful it is. I'll put it on in a minute, but yeah. So this is one side because this is color changing yarn, and then this is the other side. So a little different. Here, let me try to do like a half and half to kind of show the two different sides. Yeah, so you can kind of see they're a little different. And putting it on, just, you know, a cozy cowl. I followed the pattern. It's a, I wonder if I might be able to do it twice. And it would be like kind of really cozy. I don't actually wear a lot of cowls. Well, it doesn't get that cold in Los Angeles anyways. So this would be a travel project, but the yarn is so scrumptious. It's Freya hand paint sport gradient in cloud and vintage, and it's a 70% merino, 30% silk. And I picked this up Virginia Beach 2019 as a D-stash. I think I got each ball for like $5 or something. And I've been wanting to use some type of, I don't know, shawl or cowl or something that would really play up the gradient. And this was perfect. And so basically it's brioche where you change, you know, so this is the knit, and then this section is purl, and then knit, and then purl. So it brings out stronger colors, and it kind of alternates. And it was such a potato chip knitting project. What else did I do? I mod for sport because the pattern is fingering, and she did it originally for kits, like 5 or 6, you know, mini skeins, made a cowl kind of similar. And I liked just using the 2 balls. I didn't have to change colors. And I used 50 grams of each 75-gram skein, roughly. It's about 385 yards. So I had a little ball of each left. And yeah, I mean, the colors are a little washed out because it's a little gray today, like I said, but love it. Love it. Highly recommend. Really easy to do. Great for mini skeins. So potato chip knitting. Brioche, not that hard. If you've never done brioche, don't be intimidated. And yeah, that's kind of what I did. What else do I have? Sorry, I'm like fixing my hair. Then I did some top knot baby hats by Purl Soho. I did 2. And this is leftover Queen City Yarns, Coleman and sand and clay that I had. So here's one where I did just, I don't know, I took it off a dishcloth and did a little ball band and did a little nipple top. And the yarn is 65% silk, 35% linen. And then the other one I did all in the same, and then I did a little top knot to use pretty much the skeins. And this was yarn. One of them was in my Metamorphic. The other was in the recent tee I did, the Tulsa tee. And I just had some little balls of it, and I thought this would be great for, you know, really soft, easy baby hats, very neutrally, to go into my gift box for babies later. So finish these. Then I don't know about you guys, but I've been watching the Bakery Bears podcast for many years, and Kay is a very talented designer. She does a lot with fingering weights and great blankets and things like that. And she recently came out with a hat, the folded hat by Kay Jones. And I decided to do it, though I did modify it, but here it is. And basically you hold fingering together. So this is 1 skein of fingering that I split into 2 equal balls. And then you knit, you basically cast on, knit, and then you fold up for a brim. You can see on the inside how tall of brim I did. And that was my main modification. She does a much shorter brim, I think like 2 inches, and I did 3. 1 to use a lot more of the yarn, and then I have big ears and I wanted that whole section to really be that double section around the head, and then specifically the ears, and then it's just the single layer for the head. So Musselburgh-esque, double hat-esque, there's a lot of patterns out there, but you can do it with the single skein, and it goes so fast because you're basically holding fingering double, so it's a DK weight, and just super easy to do. You know, cast on, and then you just pick up and knit together when you get to fold up the brim. And yeah, and then the yarn is Swift Yarns Bliss Sock and Lightsaber that I got in 2018. So this is one of those older skeins I was trying to use, and I really like it. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. I don't know. I'll have to decide if I have enough hats. So for something to join my hats, would take a lot, but I think this will be a really great charity hat. I will be donating, what is it? Rainbow Knits, Knitters for the Rainbow, the charity out of New York that takes all sorts of knitted items and distributes them to at-risk youth and trans youth and things like that. So I have for the last few years sent a box like every year. I put like extra socks, hats, cowls, scarves, things that I like to make that I don't necessarily have a home for, or people in mind for. And I, you know, especially the bright colors, I think it's great. And I made it to fit my head, which is a 22-inch head, but I think it would be a really beautiful knit that somebody would really like. So yeah, that might actually do that. So this, again, folded hat by Kay Jones. You wouldn't necessarily need her hat. Like, as I said, it's a very simple hat. You could probably adapt it from any hat pattern. When I'm inspired by a pattern designer, I like to buy their pattern, even though I don't necessarily need to as a very experienced knitter. But the idea came from her. though it's not a new idea, but, and then I like her podcast, so that's how I supported it. So you can get the pattern, or you could do something very similar where you just cast on, knit, holding fingering together. And then I did think I changed the top. I think she had less repeats, and so I can't remember what hat pattern I followed for the top, but I think I changed it a little bit, the decreases. Yeah, and I'm pretty happy. I used 356 yards, so 89 grams, so almost the whole bit of it, which is really my goal, because I have a lot of sock scraps, which I'll show you later, or some of them later. So that was another hat I finished for probably charity. And then one more charity hat is the Scrappy Helical Hat. And this is yarn, again, sport weight, that I picked up, and I used 3 yarns in this. This is partial balls, all partial balls, but this one is another Crafty Girl Sport and a Sweet Ogre that I had knit a pair of socks of, and so I had half ball. So I did that because I had the most of it. And then I alternated it with the leftovers of the Freya that I had. Now, if you'll notice, my cowl had a lot of pink in it, but when I got to the end, it was very much the neutral. One of the skeins was this kind of neutral color, and then the other one was this like darkish brown black. So I ended up using both of those balls, using all of the dark. And so by the time I got to the top, I only really had the 2. So the orange is another Crafty Girl, and then the kind of the neutral is that Freya, the leftover. And I ended up using most of them. I think I had 10 grams of each left. And here, let me put this on. This is just another, made it a little longer, so it's got a little bit, but not super slouch. And then easier. And these are totally my colors. Again, if I needed another hat, I would totally keep it, but I don't. So this one will probably go for charity too. And then my big knit that I'm wearing right here. This is my Ally sweater by Sarah Opie. And I was inspired by, I think I saw a sample at Rhinebeck last year, 2 years ago. The one with the disastrous craft thing where it rained and it was awful. But Explorer Knits was there. And this was originally the original pattern writer used her yarns. And so she had one. And so I liked it. And then I came back and I used my own yarn. So I used Ula and Leah DK Wool Cashmere Blend. It's 85% wool and 15% cashmere. That's the green. And this is a Kickstarter that I back. So all these yarns actually come from Mongolia. And then this alternating is, or this alternating, the cream with, you can kind of see it's got little pops of like color here and there, is Zombie Yarns Monster and Turkey Spay. It's 100% merino, and I got it at I got it at Stitches West in 2022. And this was, she was going out of business. All her skeins were like fire sale, $5 each. I actually have a whole sweater out of this, a Brooklyn raglan that I love out of it. And so I had like a ball and a half, and I thought it would do great. So I'll put a little video here so you can kind of see me modeling it standing up. But it is color work, and then solid body, and then split hem, rib, and then at the edge you like do the pop of contrast, and then tubular bind off. I did a few modifications. My gauge wasn't exactly spot on, so it was a little off. I actually did this as a size 1 and ended up with a 39-inch circumference. Bust circumference. I did a little bit longer on the body, I think like an extra inch or so. I changed this. The original motif for the cuff was 2 of these triangles, very similar to here. And instead, based on another project I saw in Ravelry, I did just 1 of them, and then I kind of echoed the stripes that are here and on the back of the neck. And I really like that. Now, I did have to knit the sleeve. I knit 3 sleeves. Her original pattern had a much looser arm, and I didn't really want that. I want it much more fitted. So I knit the first one, as I typically do, per pattern, and it kind of like, the decreases ended here, and then it was like loose there, and I didn't like that look. And then also my color work, this color work is all in the same needle size and it went fine. But when I did that here with this much smaller circumference, it was way tight. So I made some adjustments. And then on my second sleeve, I changed the rate of decrease to basically get to the end where I wanted to with this smaller cuff, and then knit the color work. I think actually I knit the color work on that one too tight. And then on the third sleeve, because I basically didn't like the sleeve, ripped it out, redid it with a new decrease rate, but still did the color work because I had stopped on the first one here and hadn't gone through the color work. So on the second time I knit the sleeve, I did the color work on the same needle, was too tight. Did this one, rate of increase, just went up a needle size. So the whole body is done on 7. I did the color work here on 8 and then went down on US 5s for this. And that worked out really well. So then I came back to the other sleeve, cut back, knit back, or, you know, ripped back, which is really fun when you've actually done the tubular bind off. But I literally just cut this little contrast out and then redid it. And now I'm super happy with it. Originally I was a little worried about this neck is much higher than I usually go. And it was definitely kind of pulling in a little bit before I blocked it. But after blocking, of which this yarn needed not an aggressive block, but an aggressive wash. They do come with the spinning oils still kind of in the yarn. So it feels a much, I don't know, crunchier, tighter. That's the wrong descriptor, but the recommendation is you basically do hot water from the tap. So as hot as your tap puts out, my tap puts out about 110-degree water, and you soak it with Dawn and no agitation, just the hot water, 15 minutes, and do that like 3 times to get the spinning oils out, and then you rinse it. And that worked really well. No felting, no nothing. I was really happy. I had checked on my swatch and there was no bleeding from the green into the cream, because that's always a concern when you're using those kind of things. And then I blocked it, and it took 3 days to block. It's pretty dense. It is a DK weight, but as I said, it has been very humid here. I did it inside, and so it took 3 days. But overall, super pleased. This color work is so easy. It is, you know, it's stranded. Here, let me pull up. Whew. Yes, I have a t-shirt on actually. But yeah, you can see the stranding. So all stranded. I don't know. Lately I've stopped like catching my floats because I tend to see that more, catching my floats. Not a problem on the body at all. I do have to be a little careful. I didn't catch here about, you know, keeping my hands like this and not like catching my fingers when I put it on. But other than that, it's fine. It's great. I'm really happy with it. It will be a really warm sweater when I need to go somewhere really warm, or not really warm, but this would have been a great Rhinebeck sweater if I were going. I'm not, but super pleased. So check it out. She does a very, very thorough pattern. I think the pattern was like 28 pages, multiple sizes, lots of check-ins, you know. Oh, the other modification I did is I wanted the body a little bit more. And so when I got down to the sleeves, I did 2 more increases for the body to get that 39. I was going for 39.40. So I was going for 40, I think, based on my gauge. And after blocking, I got 39. So that's fine. My bust is a 35, 34 and a half, 35. So that gives me 4 inches of ease, and then not so much ease here. But as I said, I wanted a fitter sleeve than the pattern. So heavily modified, not heavily, but like most of my patterns and projects, I modify. And I also recommend, if it's not right, rip it out and redo it. That's why I did the sleeve multiple times, and it went so fast. Like a sleeve took, I don't know, like 4 hours to knit, maybe a little more. And I'm pretty monogamous in my knitting, and I want to get it right. So if it's not right away, I rip it back and redo it right then. Because if I put it down, like most of us, I'm sure, who knows how long it would take us to fix it. And then you would just have this sad project that was, you know, 95% done, but didn't fit exactly the way you wanted, and therefore you didn't wear it. So, pretty, huh? That is what I have. So 1, 2, 4 hats, cowl, sweater, and socks, all finished in the last month since I podcast. Yeah. I have been knitting quite a bit. If you know me, I've had I don't know, like most of us, like a phone game addiction. And it goes through me, you know, these stupid games that are just time wasters. And I had gotten up to probably 3 games. And one day I just kind of sat back and go, I'm literally spending like an hour and a half playing these games a day. And I'm like, I could be doing something better. And I can't keep them. I got a cold turkey delete them. So I did that with both of my phone games, and then another game that I've been playing on my tablet for years and years and years and years. I was in a guild. I did this whole thing as a Star Wars game, and I was like, you know what? You're not bringing me joy anymore. I just told my guild, you know what? It's time. It's time to stop. And so I stopped that cold turkey. That was like a half hour every day, and you had to get on because, you know, other people were depending on you and things like that. And all of that contributed to a lot more knitting time. So that's great, which is what I wanted. And yeah, so that's why I've been pretty prolific, I think. And then projects I'm knitting. Works in progress. Works in progress, guys. Let's start with my purse knitting. It's a pair of socks. And I actually have one of them done. So I'm going to pull it off a sock blocker. It's my size, so the sock blocker, which is a little bigger, will be a little tight, but not too bad, probably. Now. So here's my first sock, and if you'll notice, I went and started using my scraps right away with this blue that I had left. So this is the mini I have. This is Fiber Nymph Dyeworks, one of her minis from her Advent. And then I helical knit the leftovers from this one with Fiber Nymph Dyeworks Bounce that I had a self-striping called Shoes Happy that I recently, like in the last 3 months, did a pair of socks from. So you can kind of see this white, orange, this is that self-striping, but then kind of with the blue, and it really worked well. So pretty happy with it. This is the first sock, and then I did the palindrome heel again. It gives such a squishy looking heel. It's very easy to do once you get it. And then my second sock, I'm not that far in. These are mainly being done at work. I've had a decent amount of meetings that I've been working at the last week. So that's one sock. I'm going to finish the second sock. These kind of are my colors, but it probably will go to charity. I'll probably put it in the charity box for somebody to love these crazy socks. One of the things that happened, I think I told you last time, is my family all moved to Florida. And my mom specifically said to not make her so many socks because she's not going to have as much wear of them in Florida as opposed to New England. So made me a little sad because I have probably a fair amount of, when I knit socks, because she's the same size foot, so they can be for me, they can be for her, and I have a few pairs. So I will be giving some socks away probably. The other thing I cast on in my quest to use those older stash is I had this skein, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's kind of this bulk, it's almost like a boucle. It's a fingering weight, and it's got the little nups and stuff in it, and this is hand dyed. And I picked this up in 2019, Stitches SoCal 2019. As at the time, it was a newish yarn. I hadn't really seen it before. I just got one skein, didn't know what to do with it, haven't known what to do with it the last 6 years. And I finally just did a deep dive down Ravelry to find something, and somebody had done just a simple hat with this, and actually a mohair. I'm omitting the mohair, but holding it together to do a very simple hat. And I'm still on the ribbing, which I will say that this yarn, I'm hoping once I get past the ribbing it will be easier, but it's really easy when you're knitting with 2 strands to like miss a strand, especially if it's like a nup or something. But anyways, pretty pleased with it. Right now it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna just make a simple hat, and yeah, we'll see when it gets done if it's gonna be for me or most likely charity. So those are the 2 that I have on my needles, and then I'm going to cast one on today. So I'm going to share it with you because I've been pretty excited about it. So Make 9 update. I have finished 8 of the 9 projects. I have one more project that I had on my list from the beginning of the year, and it's a sweater. And it's specifically the Simple Something by ANKESTRiCK. And the pattern is 2 fingerings held double, as kind of a stash buster. Very easy, simple raglan. And then you put the purl side out. You knit it, but you knit it, you know, purl, you knit it the knit side, but then when you're finished, you flip out the purl side. And I had wanted to use my various scraps of sock yarn because I do knit a lot of socks. I've had friends give them to me. I've done fingering weight blankets. I have, you know, a bunch of scraps, and so I wanted to use it, but I wanted to hold a single strand of something throughout. And at Knockers D-Stash last year, I found this, which is a cone of, based on what's in it, it's Nature Spun Sport from Brown Sheep. And I probably have, I don't know, well over 1,000 yards of it. And it's 100% wool, sport weight. And I actually spun off 50 grams of it because I'm going to hold it double to do this part. And then I'm going to go into the color. But you can kind of, I don't know if you can see, but it looked more natural. But I think the cone was just old. Because when I spun it off, it's much more a brighter white. But that's fine. So this is the solid I'm holding. And then this is my bag of minis. And I don't even remember where I must have picked them up. I must have picked these up at Knockers, but somebody put a whole bunch of, it's all Knit Picks Hawthorne, and all these little 5 gram put-ups. Like lots of jewel tones, lots of things, a little pop. So I'm going to use all of these that I got. And all of these, I have about 20 of them, so they equal about 100 grams. And then kind of just show you my bag. All kind of jewel tones. I have some mohair that I might use in the pattern. She uses it at the cuffs and the hem, so I might use this leftover that I have. And yeah, I just kind of kept it greens, blues. I took out any kind of pinks. The only kind of pink kind of color I'll have is more, and that color's definitely off. It's definitely more maroon than that. And then 2 other minis I threw in. These were from Lantern Light that I got in a Halloween Advent a few years ago. I figured those go. But all in all, I've got probably 200 grams of that, which should be good. And if not, I have bigger skeins. Like I was really trying to focus on using smaller balls. All of these are 15 grams or less. A lot of them are those 5 grams. And yeah, I'm going to cast this on today. I got to do the math, figure out what size. I'm thinking I want this to be more of like a house sweater. So I'm not going to worry about like making the sleeves match the body and color or anything like that. Probably going to make it a little more oversized than I would if I wore it out. So I'm thinking of making it with maybe like 8 inches of ease, maybe. And then a looser sleeve, but got to read through the pattern and do it all. But I'm really excited to be working off the cone. I like scraps. I have a lot of patterns in my potential queue or things like that. There's just a lot of beautiful things you can do with small bits of yarn and minis and things like that. And yeah, so I was playing with all those colors today. I used the opportunity to basically pull out all of my fingering scraps, and I have them in various weights. And I actually sorted them and like made the balls better and things like that because I'm weird that way. And I have like a bag that is 25 grams and more of sock yarn, and then a bag that is 10 to 25. And then I have a glass jar downstairs that is under 10. So yeah, that's how I, not by color, do it by size. And then I still have other socks. Anything that is actually, most of these are like little bits I picked up at the D-Stash table. Friends have given me, things like that. So they never actually went into my Ravelry stash. And so they're not counted that way. I'm going to have to weigh as I go to figure out how much yarn roughly. And then if I use like say this and I had, 30 grams left, then that stays in my Ravelry stash because I bought this skein. And it stays in my Ravelry stash as in there until I fall usually below, depending on the sock yarn, usually 15 grams or so. That's when I kind of say, okay, it's all used up. And then it goes into my various bags to be used for later. But yeah, that's how I organize my scraps and things like that. And then I have a bag that is sport and DK weight, and then another bag with balls of worsted weight. When I was making Mother Bears, that's what the worsted weight went for. Now they're just kind of, they're up there until they bother me, and then I'll find a project, a hat, or this or that, or do things. So yeah, that's what's happening. I'm also probably going to skein up for, I kind of talked about, I'll talk about my trips, but trying to figure out my travel knitting. I think I have. And I'm going to show you because my acquisitions that I picked up go into that. So, I saw a beautiful hat at last year's Virginia Beach that my friend Pam had done out of Gauge Dyeworks. And she specifically does like long repeats. And I don't know if I saw her Instagram, if I her email now, I'm not really sure. But she came out with her Halloween colorways and I ordered 2. So the first one is, this is the Jack-o'-lantern one-way trip. So these are the big, long repeats and stripes. And this is, I got the MCN. So superwash, 70%, superwash, 20% cashmere, 10% nylon. This is going to be a Musselburgh for me. Definitely a Musselburgh for me. Then the other one I got is Pumpkin Stripe Latte with the mini. And this is her 4-ply socks, so 75-25. And this at some point will be a pair of socks for me. I almost thought about making this the Musselburgh. It'd be shorter repeats. So I don't know. Both of them. I like this one. It came out a little more muted than I liked. That's why I might hesitate. Versus this is more kind of in there. But both of them are beautiful skeins. And I'm so happy to try them. So one of them will be coming with me for travel and knitting as a Musselburgh. Because that's, I'll get it started. And then it's, you know, lots and lots and lots and lots of stockinette in the round. So it'll make a great travel project. So those are my only acquisitions. Going into life stuff. What have I been up to? I've been seeing a fair amount of shows. So I have season tickets to one of the local theaters, specifically for musicals. And in the last, I don't think last time I talked about it, but in the last 3 months, I think I've seen 3. I saw the Neil Diamond musical, which was actually really good. The main, and these are all obviously the touring casts. The main guy who sounded just like Neil Diamond was actually on, not America's Got Talent, the other one, the singing show. Anyways, it was excellent. Obviously, you know, you gotta love a Sweet Caroline and things like that. So, but it was like a lot of these musicals based on Neil Diamond's life. It was definitely entertaining. Then we saw Some Like It Hot, which is based on I think it's a 1950s movie where 2 musicians basically hide as women on a touring musical show as they try to escape the mob that's trying to find them. It's a very funny movie. It was a very entertaining musical. It was fun to watch. The last one I saw was Shucked, and I was really looking forward to seeing this one. I had seen that Alex Newell was someone I enjoyed from Zoe's playlist and things like that. Amazing voice. Had a single or had a song from Shucked that was in the Broadway Spotify playlist I sometimes listen to, and I loved the song. So we went, and that song was the best part of the musical. The rest of it, not so much. Let's go with that. Not so much. Usually I can at least appreciate the music or the songs, but I felt like 2 of the main leads were weak in terms of their voice and things like that, and then the music, and yeah, but you know, that song was worth it. But that musical is one of the ones that my boyfriend, who usually comes with me, was at intermission, was like, I have never wanted to get up and leave more than I have at this one. Which is funny because there was one last year or the year before that I really, at intermission, wanted to get up and leave. And he was like, no, this is great, because the music was good, but the rest of it wasn't. And this one, he was like, I want to leave. And I was like, no, we stick to the end. And yeah. So I've been doing that. We also, for the summer, we have tickets to the Hollywood Bowl to see the LA Philharmonic. That is their summer home. It is an open air amphitheater that you can go to, and you can bring your own food and drinks. We don't usually do that. We usually get it there, but a lot of people do. And we go on Thursday nights every other week and listen to various things. So we saw YoYo Ma, who is I think he plays the cello. And he was paired up with Angelique Kidjo, who is an African singer, and they were great. It was just the two of them. Occasionally they would have some other musicians join them for various things, but it was mostly just the two of them, and she sang in French and her native language and things like that, and it was really good. Also saw a violinist who was amazing as a soloist, Akiko Myers, and I guess she lives in Los Angeles, and she's one of those violinists who puts her whole body in it, and the music, it was great. I enjoy classical music. I don't love classical music. My boyfriend, he listens to classical music like on his playlist and things all the time. I listen to classical music when I go see classical music, but for the most part, that wouldn't be what I choose to listen to otherwise. And then the last one we saw most recently was the last one. It was the LA Philharmonic, and then they brought in the Dance Theater of Harlem. And that was a great show. One, I like ballet, and so they kind of did this thing. And then more so, it was the crowd was very different because it was the Dance Theater of Harlem. So there were a lot of great women there. And right behind us, there were two women. They were, one was from Virginia, one was from Chicago, and they were friends, and they were out there for the show. And then she was a knitter. So I was wearing a shawl, and she totally complimented me on it, and we had a great conversation, and she showed me pictures of her knitting and her macrame and things like that. And so, it was great. And yeah, so it's always great when you meet crafters in the wild and you have a great conversation. And then they were enjoying the show. We were enjoying the show. It was fun. So, but summer is over. For the Hollywood Bowl, we do have my next show that I'm going to be seeing is Les Mis, which I'm a Les Mis fan from high school back. I mean, Les Miserables has been around forever. So they're doing a touring. I picked up tickets, and I'm actually going to take my brother because we're going to move into a little bit of my travels. So I'm traveling a bit in the next 2 months. So in 2 weeks, it's my annual trip with my college roommates and friends. And this year we're going to Santa Barbara. So they're actually flying out here from Texas and Ohio. And there's a group of 5 of us women. 3 of us live in Southern California, then those 2, and we're all going to get a house in Santa Barbara. And it's always a good time. We've gone lots of places. We pick it by picking out of a hat. We all put in like 2 cities we'd like to visit, and then we pick it out of the hat, and that's where we go the next year. So this year it's Santa Barbara, so very easy for me. And then I come back from that weekend, and even before that weekend, my brother comes out because the following week, me and him are going to South America. And this originally started because I'm going to Hohi's retreat in Buenos Aires, but then I was going down there, and so we added on the other trip. So we're doing a G Adventures tour, and we're actually flying into Chile. So Santiago, and then we're going down into the Andes, and then across into Argentina, and then end the tour in Buenos Aires. And then we have a day or so before the knitting retreat. And then after the knitting retreat, we fly to Iguazu Falls, and that's where we end it. So I'm gone almost 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So very looking forward to it. My brother's a great travel companion. We went to Morocco last year. And that's why I've been thinking about my travel knits. So I'm going light. I mentioned it last time. I'm going to do a practice today where I pack my suitcase, but I'm traveling light. And so as part of traveling light is my knitting is obviously part of it. So it's only going to be fingering weight projects. I think the Musselburgh, I have a Hohi shawl, kind of one skein that I want to do, and then probably a pair of socks. And then I figured if by the time I get to Hohi's retreat and, I'm out of yarn, I will have the opportunity to buy some yarn there. But that's the plan. And then I'm doing that trip. I come back, and then a week later, my boyfriend is doing his own adventure trip where he is flying to Germany to go to some place he wants to go to. And then he is taking the Queen Mary back from Germany to New York. So the transatlantic trip, because he's not a fan of flying and he wants to do that. And then I'm meeting him in New York the day before Thanksgiving. And then we're taking the train, Amtrak, all the way back to LA. And we are going New York to Chicago, Chicago to Portland, and then Portland to LA. So that will be we leave, I think, the afternoon of Wednesday, the 26th. We get into LA, if all the trains are on time, which is not always a guarantee, 9 o'clock on Sunday night. So that will be an adventure. We got to remit. We've traveled this way very, very early on in our relationship to Chicago. So I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of knitting time. I will be able to bring more knitting on that. And then it's a great way to travel. You talk to people, you see the world, you hang with your partner. It'll be great. So I'm doing that. And then in December, I might be going to Florida. And then next year, I have already said I'm going to Vietnam with my brother for another tour. And then I got into the Grocery Girls Alaska cruise this year, for next year rather, 2026. And I'm taking my mom. So we are going to be going to Alaska out of Seattle at the end of May. And I'm very looking forward to that too. So it's shaping up to be some amazing travels the next, 6 to 9 months. And then we'll see what happens from there. Yeah. So lots of planning have been going into that. I love planning, but it takes time, and then like booking airfare and finding the best one and all that jazz. So much fun though. Also, since my last been reading, as usual, I read 15 books since the last podcast. I don't think I'm going to highlight any of them. A lot of them are series that I've already talked about before. The various mystery. I mean, in my ears, I love a mystery book. And then, a lot of people have read the series, but I read the second book by Rebecca Yarros, The Iron Flame. And this is a fantasy dragon set in another world. It's the Empyrean Chronicles or Empyrean Realm. And the third book has actually come out. It's Onyx Storm, and I haven't read it yet. I'm going to wait a while, but it was a great book. It's a thick book, but it was a great book. I love the story. But I don't want to start the third one until like the fourth one comes out. I think it's going to be a 5-book series, and the fourth one isn't supposed to come out, I think, until 2027. So I'll probably wait till next year sometime to read the third book. But yeah. And then other than that, like I said, lots of mysteries, lots of kind of paranormal, supernatural fantasy kind of books. TV, movies. The only one I want to recommend that we had watched, and it had been out for a while, and then my partner is a great one for randomly starting a show, and then we like it or we don't. But we watched 4 seasons on Netflix, and this is based on a movie, an all-in-all movie, which is great. And it's with Steve Carell and Tina Fey and Coleman Domingo, and it was really good. The last episode, not so much, but the 7 of the 8 were really good. And then I think there's going to be another season. It's a great midlife show, if you understand what I mean. I mean, I'm turning 49 in Buenos Aires this year. So I'm definitely, solidly in midlife. And that's kind of that show, and it was great. But that's what's going on. I wanted to get on here so that I could show you all this stuff, because I definitely am not going to be able to podcast again until November sometime. Yeah, and that's what's happening. My boyfriend just got here. He's sneaking up the stairs. But I will leave you with all of the fall feels, all of the things, all the people going to Rhinebeck. I'm so jealous. I hope you all had so much fun. It's not on the cards for me this year, but maybe next year. And yeah, that's a wrap from Hollywood, where fantasy meets fiber and dreams are knit. Bye, everybody.